Rain poured over Chicago as Daniel Carter stood outside Sterling Global, holding an old backpack and counting the last $11 in his wallet. He was a single father, and he desperately needed a job before Friday, or his 8-year-old daughter Lily could lose her place at school. Daniel had once been a brilliant businessman, but 15 years earlier, his life had collapsed after he was falsely accused of stealing millions from his best friend's family company. He had disappeared, built a quiet life, married, and later lost his wife. Now, with only Lily depending on him, he had returned to the corporate world, not as an executive, but to apply for a janitor's job. Inside the building, Daniel filled out the application and wrote his name, Daniel Carter. Minutes later, the form reached the office of Sterling Global's billionaire CEO, Alexander Sterling. The moment Alexander saw the name, he froze. "Daniel Carter," he whispered. His best friend, the man he had believed was a thief, was supposed to have disappeared 15 years ago. Alexander rushed downstairs and found Daniel sitting in the maintenance office. Their eyes met, and years of buried memories came rushing back. "You're alive," Alexander whispered. Daniel looked away. Apparently. Alexander demanded to know why Daniel had disappeared. Daniel finally revealed the truth. Alexander's father had framed him for financial fraud and threatened to send him to prison if he didn't disappear. Daniel had never stolen anything. Then Daniel's phone rang. It was Lily. She asked if he had gotten the job and reminded him that her school payment was due Friday. Daniel promised he would fix everything. Alexander heard the conversation and realized how much his former friend had suffered. "Why didn't you ever come back?" Alexander asked. Daniel looked at him sadly. "Because I stopped waiting for someone to believe me." Alexander couldn't forget those words. He hired Daniel immediately, not out of pity, but because he remembered the brilliant, loyal man Daniel had once been. Daniel accepted the janitor position and worked harder than anyone expected. While cleaning the executive floor, he unknowingly caught Alexander's attention every day. Then Alexander reopened the old financial case. He discovered something shocking: the money supposedly stolen by Daniel had never gone to Daniel. It had been transferred into an account controlled by Richard Hale, his father's former financial director, the same man who had originally accused Daniel. Alexander confronted Richard, and after years of lies, Richard finally confessed. He had framed Daniel because Daniel discovered that Alexander's father was secretly moving illegal money through Sterling Global. Daniel had been sacrificed to protect the family's reputation. Alexander returned to the office and found Daniel cleaning the hallway. "Richard confessed," Alexander said. Daniel stopped. "For 15 years, Alexander continued, I believed you betrayed me." Daniel quietly replied, "You didn't believe me when I needed you most." Alexander lowered his head. "I'm sorry." Before Daniel could answer, Lily arrived at the office with her little backpack. She smiled when she saw her father, then shyly greeted Alexander. She showed them a drawing of her family, and surprisingly, Alexander was standing beside Daniel in the picture. "Daddy said good friends are family," Lily explained. Alexander's eyes filled with tears. But the story wasn't over. Richard leaked old documents to the media, trying to destroy Alexander and save himself. Sterling Global's board immediately began investigating Alexander. The company was suddenly in danger. Daniel knew exactly what was happening. He entered the boardroom carrying a folder he had protected for 15 years. Everyone laughed at first because he was still wearing his janitor's uniform. Daniel placed the folder on the table. "These are the original records," he said. "The truth your company tried to bury." The room fell silent. The documents proved Richard's fraud and cleared Daniel's name. Alexander was saved, and Richard was finally exposed. At the next board meeting, Alexander publicly admitted his mistake. "I spent 15 years believing my best friend betrayed me," he said. "The truth is, I betrayed him." Then he handed Daniel the shares that had been stolen from him 15 years earlier and offered him a senior leadership position at Sterling Global. Daniel looked at the papers, then at Lily. He smiled. "I don't need revenge," he said. "I just needed the truth." Months later, Daniel became one of Sterling Global's most respected leaders. But he never forgot where he came from. He created better opportunities for struggling parents and made sure every employee, from executives to janitors, was treated with dignity. Alexander changed too. The billionaire who had once been called the Ice King finally understood that money could buy almost anything except lost time and trust. One rainy morning, Daniel looked out from his new office at the same building where he had once begged for a janitor's job. Lily ran into the room and hugged him. "Daddy, are you happy now?" Daniel smiled. "I finally am." And that was the real victory, not becoming rich again, but getting his name, his dignity, his best friend, and his daughter's future back.